Go for it, TJ. Go for it.
In that bag. What you got in that bag?
Oh, as we always do at this time, kaboom. Guess who stepped in the room? TJ here. Listen, I kind of told you what this was about earlier, right? As I dug in this big-ass grab bag. You know, we're talking about De Niro yesterday. We kind of went down the greatest films that he had by decade, and that got me thinking as I dug in the grab bag. So I came up with this one, guys. I took a ton of actors.
Yes.
I broke them down by decade.
Okay.
All the films they did from a decade period. So we're talking from like 80 to 89 or from 90 to 2000. And I basically looked at all these films, and it was either between what I thought were the absolute best films, which is just too hard, or I just went with my favorite. Okay, so this is going to be TJ's favorite actors by decade. Okay. And if that makes sense to you. So I've taken a bunch of actors, a bunch of decades.
Number 5 is from a certain decade, or
number 5 is an actor, and I took his entire body of work from that decade.
Let's go.
That's how we did it.
I like it.
First and foremost, I just want to give an honorable mention. This isn't part of the top 5, but I just want to say this.
You can't do that. You will do it.
Well, can you hear it and see if you appreciate it or not? Can you listen to it? What I'm saying? Okay, back when I lived in Pittsburgh, I used to telemarket, right? And I worked with a guy named Clayton. Clayton was the best telemarketer in our business.
Kershaw?
No, except that Clayton also had the lowest calls per hour. So our bosses couldn't figure out, how are you selling the most but having the least amount of calls? And he basically said, you know, I'm a big game hunter. I hit what I shoot at. So the reason I bring this up is there's a guy who didn't have a lot of films, but every single one of his films was the blank. It was it.
John Cazale?
John Cazale, and I figured you would appreciate that. Look at this, guys. He made 5 films.
Before he
The
passed
Godfather,
away.
The Conversation, The Godfather Part 2, Dog Day Afternoon, The Deer Hunter. All 5 of these movies either won or were nominated for an Oscar. I believe that he deserved to be mentioned in there, and that's what I wanted to do.
Married to Meryl Streep.
Married to Meryl Streep. So, you know, I figured you guys would like that, kind of give him some props. So, also, I want to let you know I left De Niro out of this because we talked about him.
Just go.
Okay, I'm
Just
going.
go. I mean, it's just you went to 5A. I heard about Clayton the marketer.
Coming in at number 5, I'm going to go with Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise in the 80s.
How's he not number 1?
Look at this list of movies of Tom Cruise in the 80s. Taps, The Outsiders, Risky Business, All the Right Moves, filmed in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, Top Gun, Color of Money, Cocktail, Rain Man, Born on the 4th of July. I mean, these are all bangers.
Yeah, he went from you know, box office star to Oscar winner.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
Number 1.
seriously.
Nominee.
Well, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Color of Money was a big one. Scorsese, and he was with Paul Newman in that one. What a great movie that is! It's a remake of The Hustler.
Yeah.
Or not a remake, a sequel to The Hustler.
Yeah. So, you know, Cruise in the 80s, he could be number 1, like you said, Chris. I got him at 5, but hey, he could go anywhere. Coming at number 4, we got the great Al Pacino, 1970s Al Pacino. You could have went 90s Al Pacino, you could have went 70s, but I feel that these films, just the power in these films, The Godfather in 72, Serpico, 73, The Godfather Part 2 in 74, Dog Day Afternoon, 75, and Justice for All in 79.
Got it.
There's a reason this guy is considered the GOAT, and I feel like these films are kind of part of that reason. And number 3 is another guy who had a few decades, but I went with the 90s. Denzel Washington in the 90s. I loved these movies. Mo Better Blues in 90, Malcolm X in 92, The Pelican Brief, Philadelphia, both 93, Crimson Tide 95. He Got Game 98, Hurricane 99, and The Bone Collector in 99. The great Denzel Washington. I feel like his 1990s was just unbelievable.
And prior to that was Carbon Copy with George Siegel.
That was one of the first movies I think I saw
ever
of him. Right. Well, obviously it was his first movie, but I saw it later. Yeah.
Okay, very good.
Number 2. This guy's another guy you could go with multiple decades. I had to pick one. I went with the 80s, and that's Mr. Jack Nicholson in the 80s. Look at this. The Shining and Postman Always Rings Twice in 80. Reds in 81. Terms of Endearment 83. Pritzi's Honor 85. The Witches of Eastwick in 87, along with Ironweed, and of course his turn as the Joker in Batman in 1989. Just, you could do 70s Jack Nicholson, but
you could.
I didn't have a connection with all those 70s movies.
Terms of Endearment was the first movie where Nicholson started playing his age. And I remember that was really significant for him to take that role. and his role in it, where he was a supporting actor, not the actor in it. And he was amazing in that movie.
Yeah, I mean, he's great in everything.
I know that, but just that was a big role for him.
Only ever seen Batman on that list.
Really? Yeah, I mean, these are... You haven't seen any of those movies?
You haven't seen The Shining?
You ever see The Postman Always Rings Twice?
Never even heard of that movie.
That one I haven't heard of either.
All right, well, coming in at number 1.
By the way, he was also in broadcast news.
Yeah, but he
had a little
wasn't
cameo
he had
in
a little
that.
cameo. That was more of, we think of William Hunt more. That movie, right?
No,
Yeah.
he was the main anchor that William Hurt was coming after. But go ahead.
All right,
Finish
so
up
number
strong.
1,
Finish up strong.
and like I said, guys, this was tough, and I want to give a shout out to Tom Hanks, who could have been on this list. He didn't make it.
Oh, damn.
But I'm going with 1980s Harrison Ford. Remember, these are in terms of movies that I love the most. 1980s Harrison Ford, The Empire Strikes Back, 80. Raiders of the Lost Ark, 81. Blade Runner, 82. Return of the Jedi, 83. Temple of Doom, 84. Witness in 85. Mosquito Coast, 86. Working Girl, 88. The Last Crusade, another Indiana Jones, 89. I realize that you can argue this list, but to me, some of those are 4 of my favorite movies are listed there. Harrison Ford in that decade, he got the nod, but like I said, it's up for interpretation, and that's my top 5.
He toggled back and forth between Han Solo and Indiana Jones.
Just
toggled back and forth between him and stuck Blade Runner in between one of them.
Between them, like, man.
And Witness in front. Witness is a great movie too.
Right? That's one of the movies we can agree on. Yes,
one of the many movies we agree on. Many movies.
But yeah, so I mean, I thought this was actually, guys, this was really tough to come up with. Like I said, there's so many people.
He left Tom Hanks on the cutting room floor. Michael Douglas on the cutting room floor.
Michael Douglas.
Gene Hackman.
Gene Hackman's
70s,
on the cutting room floor.
Meryl Streep in the 80s. I mean, but like I said, I picked movies that I had a personal
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's your grab bag.
So that's it.
Pretty good.
Okay. Didn't start well. Finished up strong.
Well, it didn't start well because
No, what did I do? It's my fault.
Well, it's a top 5 list and he had 6.
I know. He started with a top 5 list. Here's one not in my top 5.
Well, it was because I was
You do the honorable mention only on the back end.
But I figured you guys would love that pick, so that's
Why didn't you make him number 5?
Yeah.
Because I couldn't. It was hard enough to keep Tom Hanks out of there. I was going to pick another one of these guys not to put in. That was
DJ,
tough.
as I told Morgan Freeman,
Oh.
life is about making decisions.
And I made a decision, and I did not put him in the top 5. What are we arguing about?
Those 5 words he's just said, as I told
First
Morgan
of all, I want to
Freeman.
slap him for saying, like, who dare you
Yes,
say,
how dare you?
like, you told Morgan Freeman something.
He liked it.
He did actually.
I think he wanted to get up and hit him, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? But he knew
actually, he did appear to respect the fact that he held his feet to the fire.
He didn't. He didn't. He really didn't.
Whatever.